When I came in, there were only about 4 name tags not taken yet, so I think we're almost all here. A nice crowd. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to the grand finale of the 2025-26 Dialogue Series. My name's Pauline Ramig, and I'm director of the South Franklin Circle Residents Dialogues. And I'm most fortunate to have a wonderful board. Without them, we couldn't do this. Would you please raise to be honored? And once again, we offer our profound thanks to all of the essential administrative staff that helps us in support of the dialogue series. And I'm going to acknowledge and recognize some people. Would you please hold your applause until they've all been recognized? Kendra Erdzik, President and CEO of Judson Senior Living. Sam Steinhaus, Board Member of Judson Senior Living. Beth Imbrescia, Vice President of Judson Foundation. Nancy Statula, Executive Director of South Franklin Circle. Darlene Cash, way in the back there, Director of Community Life. Elizabeth Nitz. Elizabeth, are you here? Judson Foundation Associate. And of course, Sean Heron, who's Judson IT Specialist, and he will be live streaming this evening's event. We're grateful for your support. Thank you. And we're also thankful and grateful to all of the sponsors of this season that made it extremely Through your support, we provide an honorarium for our distinguished speakers, and we cover the cost of the reception. And we extend special recognition for this evening's sponsors. Dot Bambach, Virginia Poirier, and John and Sylvia Yankee. And your Dialogues Board is pleased to share with you that we have engaged speakers for the 2026-27 season. And South Franklin Circle residents, please note, as was included in last week's circular, that on this Friday, May 29, an invitation to sponsor a 2026-27 speaker will be delivered to your home address. If you wish to become a sponsor, please respond as early as possible, as first responders will be given priority. If you're interested but will be away on May 29th, please contact me no later than tomorrow, and I will email you a sponsorship invitation on Friday. Following today's presentation, we'll break and move to Q&A. Darlene and I will be ready as usual with the mics, and especially since we have viewers on our live streaming system, please wait for the mic, state your name, and then ask your question. And now it's indeed a great pleasure to bring John Yankee to the podium, who will introduce this evening's speaker. John?
Before I make the introductory comments for Brian, we've had a great season, haven't we? I know she will be embarrassed as I say it, but we really must give thanks to Pauline Ramig. Her steadfast leadership with this series of programs cannot be surpassed. As we would say, she is the best. Thank you, Pauline. As she has said, this is the last of our series for 25-26. I think we've just agreed it's been a great year. No pressure, Brian. But so many of us have been looking forward to Brian Zimmerman because we have been fortunate enough to be a part of what he has helped to create since he's been in the leadership role since 2010 of Cleveland Metroparks. He's a graduate of the University of Wisconsin. He managed a number of golf courses in both Michigan and in Wisconsin. In Milwaukee, he had leadership of a series of, I have 156 neighborhood parks. He had responsibility as the systems operation manager for 16 golf courses and the lakefront. Cleveland and the region was very fortunate to lure him away, and he came to us in 2010 as the CEO of Cleveland Metroparks. He believes that parks are essential to the quality of life. He believes that green spaces are places of connection, of healing, of recreation, of joy. His leadership has been marked by his developing partnerships. That's been an exceptionally strategic part of helping the evolution along of Cleveland Metroparks. He has the highest rate of land acquisition as a leader of the park system other than the founder. That's a tremendously important activity that he has done on the behalf of all of us, plus the thousands. The system now generates about $900 million a year in terms of regional impact. It is an enormously impressive number. And so many of us in here have been the beneficiaries of that as we enjoy the many things under the umbrella of Cleveland Metroparks, not the least being the Cleveland Zoo. So, Brian, we are very thankful for what you have done. I'm not going to get into all of the awards that he has won personally or that the park system has won. Pauline wrote about some of those in her introduction of this program. I did run across one thing as I was looking at background material on him that I do want to share with you. He was doing one of the many interviews that leaders do, and he was asked, "Do you have a leadership philosophy?" And he said, "Yes, it's really very simple. I think the first and foremost responsibility I have is listening." He said, "That's why I have 2 ears and 1 mouth." So, Brian, we are looking forward to your comments, and I promise you we will be all ears for you, sir.
Well, that was very kind. This is kind of weird. I may go over there. You can take it off. All right, thank you. I feel a little bit better. Can everybody hear me okay? Oop, there we go. That was loud. Well, one, thank you, John and Pauline. That was very, very nice. A very nice introduction. So again, Brian Zimmerman, the CEO of Cleveland Metroparks. I've practiced very hard to talk slower tonight. You'll find that I have a lot of energy and I like to move around, and I might go sit in a chair. I mean, it's very hard to control like the energy. So standing behind a podium is actually, Sam knows this, it's like it's going to be very hard for me. But I do appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. Again, I think, by way of background, I got to see some old friends here from the golf course world. I grew up on about a 200-acre farm south of Madison, Wisconsin, and enjoyed being outside every single day. And my grandfather was really kind of a guiding force. He milked cows, and when he retired in his late 60s, he didn't know what to do with himself. And he's like, I am going to pick up the game of golf. And the thing that he was able to teach me was, one, the value of hard work. I had to go pick stones or pick muskmelons or strip beans or sweet corn from the fields, but then I got to go play a round of golf with him. And if there's anybody that gets a chance to be out on a golf course at 5 o'clock in the morning when the sun is coming up, I don't know that there's a better place in the world to be. And I learned it could be a profession. And it turned out that my godparents were, my godfather was the superintendent of a golf course in Madison, Wisconsin, and I ended up working for him for 8 years. I got my degree in soil science, and so I moved kind of around the state of Wisconsin building courses, and then got recruited to go to Michigan for a period of time, and then got to run 16 municipal golf courses in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with a PGA Tour stop, which was called the U.S. Bank Championship and the Greater Milwaukee Open, if anybody follows the tour. And then I got promoted to the 156 parks. Why? Because I was one of the only few people. So the county had 7,000 employees. I worked for then County Executive Scott Walker, who then became the governor, two-time governor, and then ran for president. One of the very unique things in politics is the understanding of where things are going or where they're not going. And County Executive Walker at the time was very open about the things that he wanted to get accomplished. And so I was number 2 in charge of a 15,800-acre park system. We had just won the National Gold Medal in 2009. Ironically, the Metroparks here has won it 5 times, 2 under my leadership. So the symbol that you see there and the pin that I wear here is for the National Gold Medal. You can only win them now, I'll explain, once every 6 years. We actually won it in 2016, my first time here, and then we won it in 2021. Then the Academy made a rule, it's basically the Metroparks rule, you can't win it back-to-back in 6, so now you have to go 6 years instead of 5. I am also now a National Gold Medal judge, so I'm actually headed to Portland, Oregon here on Sunday to judge the national contest, and now it takes us out for another 3 more years post our 5. The only reason I'm saying that is that we are the best park district in the country, and everybody in the country knows it. So I want to thank all of you for being part of this wonderful 108-year journey. But that's kind of how I got here to Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going to hope that I can do this. See, I've got to go to the microphone because I'm going to be walking around here. This is probably a little bit easier, but I'm going to make sure I'm out of your way over here as well. So this is the modern day emerald necklace, 25,848 acres. We just picked up a piece of property way down in our emerald necklace and the pendant in Hinckley Township most recently. A very unique property, kind of an agricultural property, but if anybody had been down in that part, the ledge pool area, it's the only swimming pool, ironically, that the Metroparks has in the entire system, happens to sit in that area, and there is only a one-way road in. From a safety perspective, we wanted 2. The property on the backside of it came open with access to a road, so we were able to pick that up, which pushed us over the 25,800 plus acres. What's really unique about this, William Stinchcomb and the Olmsted brothers, 108 years, arguably longer than that, because Stinchcomb was a volunteer for a number of years before the park district got incorporated in 1917. They mapped out what they called a boulevard system of parks. What's really unique about what you see on the map currently is 80% of what was designed 108 years ago is actually on the map current. Think about that. When we talk about plans, and I know there's some former mayors in here, strategic plans do change based on mayors and councils and time. I want to back up. There's only been 6 heads of the Metroparks in 108 years. 6. There's only been 9 appointing authorities. So our appointing authority is the probate judge of Cuyahoga County. There's only been 9 in 108 years, and there's only been 37 park commissioners. So if you think of stability and leadership, that's why 80% of what was originally designed, because we're here for the purpose of parks and recreation. So 1545 park districts, we are a very unique thing. We are a separate political subdivision of the state of Ohio. So if you think of, we are not a city, we are not a township, we are not a county, we're a separate political subdivision, which gives us kind of unique authority. I can tell you it's the best thing, one of the best things Ohio has. Milwaukee, I worked for the government, 7,000 employees that work for the county. Here, we are for the sole purposes of parks, and that's why you get to see what you go there. By the numbers, 5-time winner of the National Gold Medal. Truly, it's an honor because you can only win them, now every 6 years. Wonderful golf courses. Got to tour Manakiki this morning to see how the conditions of the course were. We talk about our animal collection. We talk about the trails. I'll figure I'll answer the question right now on the trail outside out here, because I know I've already gotten 2 questions since I walked in. We're in the process, is what I can say. The wonderful part, mayors. So the mayor of Solon, Mayor Kraus, fantastic man. He has really championed parks and trails, and he's a trail runner and a user, and he's put their horsepower and their money behind building out this concept. So we've raised almost $7 million, and the first section we've got rolling and going, and now we're in the process of designing the bridge to get over the Chagrin River, because that's the next component, and then we're trying to determine kind of this next use coming through here. We know we have some equestrians, and we have some people that like to hike and some of the other things, and paved trails are one of the things that we really pride ourselves on. So there's going to be some debate on what we're going to do there, but before we designed the bridge, we actually walked through the river to figure out where the best alignment was, because sometimes doing is learning, and where we needed to go. But we got all the residents on board, and to see this connection happen. The other thing, Mayor Kraus would be a very good speaker at some point in time to come in for your series. His vision of the trails that go east of here and then go north-south all the way to Lake Erie, cover parts of Geauga and Ashtabula and Lake County and others, but you're seeing this north-south connection. And then not only are you seeing this connection from Solon to Chagrin Falls, but then we're talking about connections, believe it or not, to Pittsburgh. We're talking about connections to the East Coast. And then when you think of this towpath, which we'll cover a little bit, over 100 miles of paved trail and gravel trail are already on the ground. And you think of the 3 C's, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. So that's one of the other goals, is to be able to pull that all the way down through those areas there. So Metroparks by the numbers, it's kind of a fascinating thing to see all the cool things. Funding, I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. So one of the things you must know about the Metroparks is for 108 years, we've not borrowed money, and we are debt-free. So the money that we have is the money that we either raise through property tax, we raise through earned revenue, or we raise through grants and donations. And so those are some of the big things we do. Kind of the breakout of on the screen here, on $100 million each year, we get about $100 million in property taxes, $49 million in charges for services. So you think of golf courses, you think of zoos. We do own a number of restaurants and a number of other things along the way, marinas. Grants and donations and gifts, $29 million. So a significant number of money comes in from grants and donations. We get bequests, intergovernmental funding. That is sometimes we are very blessed with a great team. We have 2 lobby firms, one that works in the State House in Columbus, because you have to go where the decision makers are, and then we have a firm in DC as well. We are still tracking to try to pull $19.5 million down. The federal government's a little interesting right now, and so we will not get into politics this evening, and I will try not to swear as well, but we're working very hard at those numbers. It's a very important thing to bring money back to Cleveland as well. So a little bit by the numbers, but we're very fiscally responsible. We pass 1 levy on a $100,000 value house. We collect $100 per year. So that's really what funds the park district, which allows us to do the wonderful things that we do. And we operate on a 10-year levy. The last one passed 4 years ago at 78%. That was the highest levy that had ever passed in Cuyahoga County. That was for the Metro Park. So again, I want to say thank you to all of our wonderful residents. The second century of stewardship, when I think of the age of the Park District, and I think about that awesome responsibility of turning 100 while I was here in 2017, and now thinking about the next 100 years. We really broke it down. If there's any farmers or herpetologists that love bees, that's kind of the honeycomb, and it's the strength of the system. And so when we talk about the mission, I'm sure some of you have been around in strategic planning sessions where they talk about mission and vision. I call it mish-viz, kind of putting it together. This concept here, the mission, protecting nature, connecting communities, and inspiring conservation of our world. What I love about that is we took 50 years worth of data. So 50 years, anybody playing around with Claude or ChatGPT or any of those things? Few nodding heads. We put all of that into a machine and basically spit out the top words. Well, those were the top words of what people believed our park district has been for the last 50 years. And so one of our quick thinking writers put it together, protecting nature. So you think of it preserving 25,000 plus acres, connecting communities. The thing that I speak to often is whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, we should have an 8-minute walk or ride to the park. So if I can leave you with anything, that's our goal over the next 100 years of where we're trying to get to for this community, for our residents, to connect them. So if you think of conservation, protecting nature, connecting, making sure that we've got good pathways to connect. 21 plus million visitors come through the park district every year, so that's our welcoming. That's kind of our motto of how we thank people and engage people. So the next one of how we feed giraffes lettuce. We also make $380,000 a year off of that. So thank you for those who have supported us feeding the wonderful pieces of lettuce to our giraffes. That happens with fiscal responsibility and sustainability. We actually won an award, a national award, for any of you that have been in business. One of the interesting things that happened with COVID, if you've been in our parks, you've seen gray garbage cans and blue. So one is trash and one is recycling. Well, post-COVID, people put all of their trash in the recycling because it's just a hole, and they just drop it in instead of pushing the flap. And so what we were having is we were getting commingled recycling with garbage, and we were being fined by every load that went through, which was a huge problem for us. And so cause and effect, we now have about 50 volunteers that once every 2 weeks, we take all of the recycling from the entire park district, we put it in one location, and people actually sort through all of our recycling. We have more volunteers than we can handle, believe it or not, and it is an awful job. It is smelly, and there are bees, and it's awful. But I will tell you, we have more volunteers that we can take, and we won a national award for solving a problem because we are having recycling issues, and we were being charged arbitrage. So not only did we save money, but we have more kids that want to come in for their service hours and their credit hours, and they bring their family. And believe it or not, most of them now are repeats. They come back because they believe what they're doing for the environment is a good thing. So that's the sustainability, and it's also part of innovation of how we are creative and how we do things. For those of you if they thought about Bitcoin, I don't know if there's any Bitcoin investors. We started mining Bitcoin about my second year here because we had computers that weren't in the evenings doing anything, and so they had high capacity. So we're just like, let's turn them into miners. Well, we started making money off of it, and then Josh Mandel said you could pay some of your bills with it. So we got very creative very quickly of using a resource that was sitting for almost 12 hours and turning it into something that actually made money. So 25,418 acres. Really, there's the numbers across of how we've purchased land in 2025, because this is kind of the series. But if you think about, the feet of streams, wetlands, acres of forest, but then really focusing on land purchase. So if you look at $6.25 million, we brought in grants of 5.8. So we, the taxpayers, put in $436,000 to get $6.2 million worth of land. So I think anybody would do that on any given day, take 400 to turn it into 6.2 million. We bought land in 9 reservations in 6 communities. So we own land in Lake Lorraine, Geauga, Medina, and Summit counties, obviously Cuyahoga County. But we've added to 9 of the reservations, and there's 18 of them. 31 transactions. It comes in some very unique ones in a downtown. Sometimes they're quarter-acre parcels. We had one parcel that we needed, if you go down the I-77 corridor by Newburgh Heights, anybody gotten a ticket in that area before? It's right in that general area. But we had a house that we needed to buy to clear title for the federal government, and it was part of a 70-home umbrella mortgage. I had never heard such a thing, but they buy properties all over and they amalgamate them all together. We had to find another property of near the same value to substitute it on the mortgage. It was an absolutely brutal thing, but we had to do it to clear the federal title. But that was like a .18 parcel of land, but it stopped $9 million worth of federal funding. So we figured that out, long story short. Outdoor experiences. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is being outside, being in nature. If anybody grew up in the Garfield Heights. So what you're going to see in this presentation, we're going to go all over the county. You're going to see projects from all over. So if you were in Bay Village, you might see Bay Village. This happens to be Garfield Heights, really in the central part of Cuyahoga County. This transaction came over to the Metroparks. It was a city-owned parcel. City of Cleveland actually owned uniquely a lot of parcels outside of the city. Highland Golf Course is one of them. Seneca Golf Course was one of them, 455 acres between Broadview and Brecksville. It's actually uniquely, if anybody knows this, it's the highest point in Cuyahoga County, which is at Seneca. And that's where the water towers are for the pressure systems for the city of Cleveland's water. Very unique fun fact for you. Has nothing to do with this outdoor experiences event here, but this particular area here was taken over from the city of Cleveland quite a number of years ago. We stacked a good deal of funding. The particular building that's there, if anybody remembers the Huff riot, the time of the period, there was a building there that they burned to the ground, and then the city actually covered the top of it with soil and sodded over the top of it. We went to excavate to put that building in, and our excavator, 100-ton excavator up on top of this particular site, made the first hit, and it made this thunderous metal crunching sound. Well, it turns out they capped the entire basement. They never buried it. They never took it out. And so they capped the old basement. So then we had to redo the design because we ended up leaving the basement inside of this. And then we put geothermal. So all the heating and cooling system actually comes from the Garfield Pond here. So if you were ever in this area in the last 30 years, this area here was all treed in and you couldn't see it. But we serve 7,000 different programs, 200,000 people, and 80% of our programs are free. So you can come out for a free program anytime. Our summer concert series, we work all the way around. So that's the iconic willow tree at Edgewater. The bottom corner is the Merwin's Wharf restaurant right down off the Columbus Peninsula. But parks and music have been one of the things that I've seen for over a century here. We've had lots of good history with it. People really enjoy connecting with our lakefront. I think that's one of the things that our park district has done extremely successfully is reimagining what it takes to have a beautiful ecosystem along Lake Erie. You'll see some examples coming up, but bringing people back to Edgewater. When I first got here in 2010, if you would see 10 people in the park in the first few years that I was here, that would have been seen as a lot. A summer concert, our last one that we hosted prior to COVID had 22,000 people that came for one concert on a Thursday night for free. So that tells you what it's about. Our volunteer services, we are very blessed. 7,000 plus volunteers help the Cleveland Metroparks. That's what makes us an absolutely wonderful organization. Our organization, our team members also give back as well. So we do give back days at a wide variety of things, packing food bank boxes. We donate times in different parks along the way. But our wonderful trail ambassadors are out with their blue shirts on. Our docents are here in the bottom. We have people that come out and plant trees all across our wonderful park district as well. It's an absolutely great opportunity. We're going to start to move around the park system a little bit. Huntington Beach, Bay Village, anybody that, I know we're way on the east side here. We've got one in the back that at least acknowledges that they know where it is. I find it very territorial, east side, west side. I'm not really sure what it means. I live in Strongsville. I tell people I live in the south, and they just get completely confused. But this is one of the original 9 reservations. So this was the John Huntington Estate, and it was a vineyard, believe it or not. And this very tall structure that's just off right on the corner here, that was part of the pumping system to feed or pump water out of Lake Erie for the vineyard. And so we've had this reservation. We very uniquely rebuilt this entire area here. Turns out playgrounds and alcohol actually work very well for beer sales. So what we found, education, we're learning. We actually got a family that donated what's called the Lindsay Family Play Space. And we were, Karen's Way, there's another one, Lindsay. I'll talk about that one in a minute. But the Lindsay family came to us with about $500,000 to put this in. In the meantime, we got our liquor license. We went from selling about $200,000 a year of ice cream to $750,000 of ice cream and beer. We also found that more dads were taking their kids to the park and then coordinating with their friends to sit in this particular area here. So it was kind of a genius way of doing it, of turning parks into a little bit of a profit center as well. But I will tell you, I don't know if there's any greater place than see some of these wonderful sunsets, having an experience with your kids and family on Lake Erie. So Karen's Way Play Space, 100% funded by a family that wanted to honor their mother, and we put it to good use and then figured out how to maximize it. Interestingly enough, the question, I'm sure some of you ran businesses and came into situations and you kind of like, well, why is this? And then there's lore, right? There's people that believe it's something. Well, this particular area here, Ohio and Erie Canal, which is one of our last reservations, it's kind of right in the central part of the Cleveland hotbed, right near the towpath. This area, prior to a few years ago, was a parking lot, and really kind of an area that was all fenced off. And I was told through the lore that it was toxic. I'm like, well, if it's truly toxic, why didn't we fix it? Nobody had an answer. So fast forward, we tested all the soil. Turns out none of that was true. It was just a gravel laydown area from a former construction site, we found out. So the long story short, Cleveland Cliffs, the highest capacity steel mill in the country, gave us almost $500,000, and we put in a world-class bike park. We now have people from almost every state in the United States that have come through here to race on this course. If anybody's ever heard of Red Bull, the energy drink, the little red lines that are on there, if you see the red lines on the track, well, this is a Red Bull certified course. And so if you want to be in the race series, you have to have this designation. And so ours happens to have that. So now we're able to host national events. And it is one of the best in the country. And it was funded by our friends at Cleveland Cliffs. Their steel mill is right in the shadows of this particular area. So we turned something that was doing nothing into something that was attracting people into the greater Cleveland area. The Red Line Greenway, so we talk about, we are the Cleveland Metroparks, so our goal, we own more parkland. Cleveland Metroparks own more parkland than the city of Cleveland does in the city of Cleveland. Just keep that as a little interesting little fact. But this is the Red Line Greenway, and so this was the work of many well before us. This was the Rotarians. This was the rapid beautification process, so cleaning and greening from the airport into downtown. They kept removing graffiti and other things. They worked in this corridor for years. This goes all the way from the Columbus Road area, the Scranton, where J.D. Rockefeller would have been many, many years ago, to West 65th Street, all the way through this old rail corridor that is now all paved, and with wonderful views into downtown. This was all funded by a Tiger grant. It had nothing to do with the zoo, but it was a transportation investment generating economic recovery. So this is one of our wonderful federal grants. We leveraged $8 million for that and raised another $16 million to build the rest of the trail system around it to make the connection. So if anybody knows Dan Moore and Dan Moore's story, we were able to recognize, a group recognized him last night for his leadership and his abilities to really connect Cleveland into some wonderful things. You see the $16.45 million in this particular area on top of the 8 that we pulled into it. This is really, really interesting. From New York to San Francisco, underneath that pillar right there within about 4 feet is the highest capacity fiber optic line from New York all the way to San Francisco. If we hit it, it was $40,000 a minute and a $4 million fine. We would have shut the world down, to be quite honest. It might have been kind of awesome, only for a period of time until we had to pay. But having said that, we were able to make this final connection to the lakefront. People talk about the connections. Intentionally, things happened over in this community and a lot of communities between freeways and railroads, and we cut ourselves off from the lakefront. So people that could see it couldn't necessarily get there. And so this was one of the very unique things that we were able to do to connect 66,000 residents now to the lakefront through this signature project here. Dan Moore and his family gave over $3 million of personal funds to make this happen, which was really the impetus to raising the rest of the money along the way. So a very cool thing. Susie's Bear Hollow, for those of you that love the zoo, this was a very unique opportunity for the Metroparks. When I came here in 2010, I really thought of this zoo, and it didn't mean this in a mean way, but it looked like this old zoo. It looked like something from like the 70s and really hadn't been very well modernized. And one of the things that we learned through a lot of the studies is people wanted to see less animals and better habitat. And I was really on board with doing that. And this was a great example. If anybody remembers our bears, if anybody remembers taking their kids or grandkids now to watch the bears, a lot of them, they were just ground bears where they just stayed on the ground and kind of walked and did some very unique pacing, which is a behavioral habit. We then created this wonderful Susie's Bear Hollow. It was 100% donated funds, and there's a window viewing where kids can crawl all the way up through a ladder system. But all along this exhibit, believe it or not, Andean bears like Oreo cookies. Who doesn't love an Oreo cookie, right? Our bears hadn't climbed in years. We put Oreo cookies on top of the climbing poles. Guess where they went? Straight up the pole, hung on, and ate the Oreo cookie. I was like, that's pretty awesome. But what it does, when you think of it, when you exercise and the physical nature of being able to climb versus being on the ground, it completely changes the overall kind of the essence of the animal itself. And so we have much better behaviors through this, but our Andean sloth bears have a wonderful viewing area, and then the kids can go up and actually watch them in the treetops as well. So it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Wallace Lake, so this is in Berea, west side location. This particular area, when I got here, this building looked like something from the Happy Days show. It looked like a 1970s bunker, way off in the corner, poured concrete walls, very, very unappealing, almost to the point you didn't think you should even go over there. I think our highest year of revenue was like $70,000. We've now produced with this new facility over $600,000 of revenue the year after we opened this particular area here. So we modernized it. We brought new bathrooms. We created a swimming area there. We can do all sorts of events. This past week we did a thing called Cops and Bobbers, which was an event with kids and folks from the inner city that came out and fished with a cop. So it was called Cops and Bobbers. And so we got new folks to come out to the park as well. Garfield here, kind of again showing anybody remember the WPA era, the Workers' Progress Administration era? That particular bridge in that bottom corner, that was one of the most historic bridges in all of the county by register. We took every stone off of it and redid the entire bridge because the bridge was starting to work its way outside. So we redid the entire bridge, and so it will be here now for the next 100+ years. But you see the unique things in the triads along the way. A week ago, in the rain, which it seemed to be raining an awful lot here for those who've been outside, we opened the West Creek Greenway. So this is in Parma, the 7th largest city in Ohio. This particular area here connects the Camelot Drive area, which represents about 20,000 residents, all the way over to Broadview, where there happens to be a giant Eagle grocery store along Broadview in the main corridor. What it also does is connects to Independence and Seven Hills, which then connects to the towpath. So that's kind of a really cool thing. If anybody thinks about the Metroparks and the Leaf Man, you know the Leaf Man, our logo. Underneath, you see the green parts there. Our contractor actually put the leaf man holding up the bridge as a little Easter egg, kind of a little design feature there along. So kind of a cool little thing if you ever get a chance to get out to the West Creek Greenway. It just opened last week. Hinckley Dam, so this is in Hinckley, Ohio. I call this the Dam Project. Come on, that was a little more funny. Thank you for laughing. I didn't want to stand up here in a very awkward silence. You know, what's interesting is our group tries very hard to find outside funding, and that's why it was the Dam Project. We worked for 5 years to find either federal funding, local funding, state funding, and for a Class 1 dam, there was no funding. So we bore the cost of doing this entire project. So it turns out the Metroparks, 98 years ago, decided to dam the East Branch of the Rocky River. It was supposed to last 100 years, and it lasted 97 years. So it did what it was supposed to do. What was really interesting about this project, if anything knows about field moisture capacity, Bill probably does from his days on the golf courses, but the interesting thing is, whoops, and I just turned it off. The soil that's on this side here, if anybody knows anything about dams, our concrete dam was actually in very, very good shape. but the soil dam was the part, if you watch any of the dams that break in any other parts of the country, the soil becomes viscous, which means it's reached its field moisture capacity and it basically opens itself up. So we rebuilt this. This is why we took a little bit longer. And we did this whole project for $10 million. Most would have estimated this in the $18 million. But if anybody knows the Buzzards Roost area, thank you. There's a few people nodding their heads. They're not buzzards until we tell you that they're buzzards. But on the very end of this project, on the southern part of this reservation, the soil that we needed to meet the compaction coefficient was actually on site in this particular reservation. So we dug a gigantic hole on the south end. We brought the material up and built the earthen dam. We redid the concrete part as well. But then we dredged the lake because it had silted itself in, and then we filled the hole back in. So we did what they call a cut and fill right on the park reservation. So that's how we cut the cost down. A very interesting phenomena actually happened on the concrete structure that sits there. We poured it so well, they have a thing called, and you can Google it, it's called nap oscillation. And what it means is that when the water comes over, it creates this sound. Jared Judy, does anybody know who Jared Judy is? Football player, Cleveland Browns, one guy in the back. He happens to live right next to it. The wife calls and said, "My house is shaking." And we're like, "No." She goes out, takes a video, and sends it to us, and the windows, she put her hand on it, and it would stop. But it was because this particular concrete dam, we built it so well that it was so pure that as the water came over, think of like wind and motion with water. Well, it was creating its own noise, and it was called nap oscillation. So long story short, we have to put some little dragon teeth on it and something else, but we learned something about physics that day. Upcoming capital projects. So this was for Bill. This is Seneca Golf Course here. This is Terry Baller and Dave Donner. There's nothing, and I think I'm wearing golf shoes there, but I wasn't playing. But we were out at Seneca. So 27 holes has been completed, 455-acre property. This is the last 9 holes. The most significant renovation, about a $4.5 million project out there. But it's really interesting to see COVID numbers from golf. If anybody played pre-COVID, golf was barely hanging on, maybe 1% or 2% of growth. Now we have capacity issues, which is really nice. This golf course from the city of Cleveland was originally only going to be 18 holes of the 36, and then we just kept going, and I'm thankful that we have all of this available. So this is the back of A. So this is between Broadview Heights and Brecksville, so the southern part of the Metroparks. This is hole number 1 right there. We took out and then built the driving range, a world-class driving range, an acre worth of tees, and then we rerouted the whole back of the Seneca golf course. So there's 3 headwater streams, which is very important to the Metroparks, protecting water corridors that end up feeding into the Cuyahoga River. We contain all of the water on site and use it to the best of our abilities, but we just did a complete redo of this. It'll open in spring of 27. So that's one of our projects. Solon to Chagrin Falls, I did highlight that kind of because I didn't want to forget about it. But interestingly enough, when you have projects and partnerships, you're able to accomplish a lot. Certainly our South Chagrin Reservation was one of the originals, but if you look at the orange dotted line of making that wonderful connection there, certainly making the connection to Bentleyville, coming all the way up into the Chagrin Falls area, we look forward to that continuation happening as well. Real good, positive projects there. One of the interesting things about Cleveland and Cuyahoga County is we are very well mapped, and why we've been successful pulling in a lot of federal dollars is because we have this wonderful thing called the Cuyahoga County Greenway Plans. If any of you know Bernie Marino, Senator Husted, David Joyce, feel free to call them. They're sitting on $19.5 million of our money. We would love to get that money out of the federal government because it covers Morgana Run, Iron Court, and Slavic Village downtown trail connectors. So think of I-77 all the way down into where Progressive Field is. That's where that new trail actually goes, and it was fully funded under Sherrod Brown, and the federal government is currently sitting on it right now. So if you happen to know them, that would be wonderful. I will help you prep. Euclid Creek Greenway, that is actually under construction, so the little purple line, so if anybody was in the Euclid area, the original, one of the original 9 reservations, Euclid Creek, our goal is to connect what we call the upland area to the southern area. So this is one of the wonderful views of it right here. Interestingly enough, remember when earlier I talked about freeways and railroads cut us off? I-90 and one of the highest capacity railroads operates in between where we need to go. And there's also a little wonderful thing called the Nottingham Water Plant. Turns out Homeland Security gets really fidgety when you start getting near them with dozers and construction equipment, so we had to kind of move around them as well in the design process. But this is some of the best topography in all of Cuyahoga County, some of the best fall views, a wonderful connection project, and we are working on it right now to make that wonderful connection from the main part of the reservation up to the lakefront where we took over Villa Angela, Euclid, and Wildwood a number of years ago. If anybody knows the Mendells, they have been nothing but fantastic to the Metroparks in the most recent years and very philanthropic through all of Cuyahoga County. This was a project that started under the leadership of Armin Budish and continued through County Executive Chris Ronayne. This is the East 9th to East 55th. This was the original part of the project. So think Burke Lakefront Airport. This was one of the projects that we had talked about, whether Burke stays or whether it goes. Looks like it may go. It's like a song, is it staying or is it going? It looks like it may go under this current mayor, but they funded $5 million. We matched it with $5 million of federal money, congestion mitigation air quality money for a $10 million project. And then what happened is they wanted to see the trail lit end to end. And so not only go from 9th Street, so if you think of the Rock Hall Science Center, Voinovich Pier, all the way to Martin Luther King Boulevard, it will be a lit trail from end to end, 2.5+ miles, because of the Mandells decided to do that for this community. So I'll break down a couple of the components that get tied into it in a minute. Old Lorraine Connector, so this is the West Park area, if anybody was familiar with Big Met, Little Met, Mastic. This was one of the areas that they couldn't solve for years. Part of the reason is that we needed the Cleveland Clinic to help us. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. They're more helpful when they need something, we found. I'll leave it at that. I won't tell you all of the wonderful, fun stories. But we did get $500,000 out of them because they needed something more than we needed. And we were able to put this trail in finally, so now we can connect the residents from the upper portion. One of the very unique challenges we have, the valley as it's called, or Hawthorne, a lot of them are lower than the topography where a lot of our residents live. And so to make connections into the park have been very, very important. And that's the strategy, listening first. We listened to what the residents wanted, and then we went very strategically with our partners, either at Fairview Park, whether it was Solon, whether it was Bainbridge, wherever it happened to be, and then figured out how to find money through the TIP program, Transportation Improvement Program, to find more money to bring back to this region. But we got this funding through the city as well. Councilman Slife wanted to see this happen, but now we've got a direct connection for kids. 1,400 plus residents live within a half a mile of the park. So remember, 8, 80, or 8, we continue to do the things that we say we're going to do along the way. We bought a barge. This may have been one of the dumbest, smartest things I've ever done. Anybody ever bought a 131-year-old Victorian-aged barge before? I'm guessing no. There was no real knowledge on why. We actually said no to it a whole bunch of times for a wide variety of different reasons. But it's an old, its real name is called the Kearsarge, and it was a garbage boat. It was actually cut in half and then welded together, and then this group put office space into it. It's probably worth $7.5 million by its appraisal. We paid 1.6. We've raised almost $2.8 million. Our goal is it's going to sit at Wildwood, Euclid Creek Reservation, and it's going to be part of our education program. We are raising current funds. Jones Day has helped us. Key Bank has already helped us. A number of other individual donors have helped us. But it'll be the only education facility on Lake Erie. And so that's one of its very unique distinctions. You ever wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and make a decision? I maybe should have stayed sleeping that night because I had said no, and then I finally said yes, let's go ahead and do this. This will be awesome. It will be one of the wonderful things. It's almost at its final resting place here, but you can see the views of downtown in the background, so it will do what we want it to do. Also, very uniquely, the Cleveland Food Bank, which is a wonderful organization, we partner with Lunch and Learn programs. There's a thing called the IMLS grant, the Institute of Museums and Libraries. We got the funding, lost the funding, got the funding back, and now we're going to be able to provide hot lunches to kids during the summer and be able to provide for a place out of the sun, out of the rain, and an education class as we finish to raise. So we're doing this in sections, 25%, 25 because that's all the money we have, so we're going to do a quarter, and then also we'll have a liquor license. So if you want to come drink and while your kids are down getting education program, Beer and Parks. If you remember something else, it's Beer and Parks. Gordon Park South, so in the city of Cleveland. Again, freeway system, East 72nd, East 55th, all tied into this wonderful area here. When we were thinking about the connections to the lake, this particular area during COVID, believe it or not, of all the places to go, the parks were open. The city of Cleveland closed this, and I'm not begrudging them for what they did, but they lost all of the people that were using the park, so it really had no identity, and it was graffitied, tagged, and basically destroyed. The ball diamonds hadn't been played on in years, and they were completely overgrown. The Mandel Foundation gave us $8 million, and we put $2 million into it, so our first phase of redo for this particular area is going to be a $10 million redo. So $2 million of our funding, $8 million of other funding. A very good number again. We probably have a plan of more than $20 million worth of other investments that we want to do in the park. The community would really, uniquely enough, there are very few areas where you can touch the water, believe it or not, as much shoreline as we have, but touching the actual water. Now in this particular area, it's very deep along Lake Erie, so there are really no beaches, so you see the riprap up in the upper corner, but we're thinking about a world-class splash pad where kids could actually get wet and see Lake Erie views. So that's one of the things that we're thinking about coming forward in the future. Next Gen is actually under construction right now, building the early components of the park for the first $6 to $7 million. The sewer district is finishing their project for their project Blue Lake. Irishtown Bend, if anybody's been focused on ITB, as we call it, the port did a tremendous amount of work. Fantastic. Our Army Corps of Engineers about 40 years ago took dredge material out of the Cuyahoga River and threw it on top of a hillside. What did you think was going to happen over time? It started to fall into the river again. So guess what? We got to pay for it twice. And so we're in the final phases of the final part of the removal of all the overburden. So everything that the Army Corps, the federal government did a number of years ago, we have been stacking funds. The port did their job. They raised about $60 million to revet the whole ribbon around it. The stabilization will finish here probably in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll start our park projects. But we raised $10.8 million from the outside, from the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Program through the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and others to do a lot of wonderful things. This is a BHAG, Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. This is part of our Cheers. Anybody remembers the old TV show? Norm! He drank beer, by the way. Lots of it. Yes, he did. We've raised about $10 million for our initial greening plan. So think of the uvula right there. The little thing that's in the back of your neck is the thing that's kind of in the middle there. Anybody ever driven there when the fish fly over the highway before? Well, anyway, fish fly onto the freeway. So the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration is actually in favor of this, and we're going to do an interim greening plan of about $10 million to knock out. There's 2 bridges over I-90 that used to feed First Energy there, but this is the dredge material from the Cuyahoga River will ultimately go here, and this will be a progression of reclaiming or putting new parkland into Lake Erie where people have an opportunity to see it. If anybody's been on I-90 most recently, 117,000 cars a day go by this area here. This is one of the success stories. So I came here in 2010 and there was nothing that looked like this. There was nothing on our waterfront that said you are welcome here. The community belongs here. So this is the new Patrick S. Parker Community Sailor. I did not know who he was originally. Boy, have I gotten to know a lot about him, his legacy, and certainly the company. Not only did the widow of Patrick S. Parker become a donor, Parker Hannafin as a company became a donor. The Foundry became our partner. We raised $16 million to build this, and we put in $1 million to bring a community sailing center. Why that's so significant is the community belongs here. So this is the community space. We're going to teach sailing in this bottom quarter here. There's going to be a boat that's going to be in the middle there that you're going to see. Our marina operations out of there. There's a restaurant inside of this, and then there's huge classrooms to be able to teach. And there's also a wonderful view right here. There's the patio on the back side of it, and it's all built. It's actually opened. It's not officially open until like 2 more weeks, but we've raised a tremendous amount of money and effort to bring activity along our waterfront, activate our waterfront, and create a whole new ecosystem where people feel comfortable coming out to use it. The crow's nest up on there is designed to host regattas, and so you can start and stop regattas right from the crow's nest on Lake Erie. So that's what the design of that is there. We also have this wonderful thing called the West Building. This was not part of the original scope, but then we ended up with funding from the Mandels again. And then if anybody knows the Britton family, this is actually going to be the Britton family sailing school. And so this area is our west campus at the Patrick S. Parker Community Sailing Center. And this is on track to be open by August 1st. If anybody's been to the zoo, again, this is this is our largest capital project in the entire Park District's history. This is a $78 million redo. So if you think of the rainforest, 35 plus years, we've completely redone all of the guts of the building. So think of your roof, your air conditioner, all the internal guts of it got redone. A new home. Believe it or not, our orangutans have never been outside. Think about that. Our orangutans have never been outside. And when the designers were designing this, they were going to keep them inside, and I said, that's not happening. And so one of the things we did is we took that component, and in this bottom corner right here, when you first come to the zoo from the parking, you will see orangutans outside at our Cleveland Metroparks Zoo. The other very cool thing is EFT, which is something that I can't even pronounce. It's like 24 letters long, but it's basically the dome system. So if you think of SoFi, where the San Diego Chargers play and others, it's designed to allow light and trees in. And that particular area there, we've raised almost $40 million from the outside, and we're still raising funds. This last part where the gorillas will go isn't funded yet. All the rest of it is funded and will open in August. Podcasts, if anybody listens to podcasts, we've had a lot of fun putting together kind of information segments. They're normally between 28 and like 32 minutes. You can download them on Spotify or other things or on YouTube. But this is Kenny Crumpton from Fox 8 News. We've known him for a lot of years. Fox 8 News has done a tremendous amount to promote our parks across, but this is the Tales and Trails podcast hosted. We cover lots of different kind of unique topics. We try to have fun along the way, presented by KeyBank, just the rich history, innovative projects. We talk about conservation, we talk about education, talk about golf, we talk about all things kind of wonderful parks. But this is a wonderful thing that we do. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Brian. That was overwhelmingly complete. I learned so much. Did all of you learn lots? And I'm so glad you could speak quickly because we only have 5 minutes left for Q&A here. Darlene, are you here with the mic? Okay.
And I'll be around for dinner, so I'm not going anywhere. So I will try to answer all the questions.
Oh, wow. Just wow to that presentation. It was terrific. This is a question about something I had read in the paper and didn't have a follow through. At one time, it looked like you were going to take over Forest Hills Park. And then I never heard any more about that. And it seems to me everything you touch turns to gold. So I wish it had happened. Or did it happen?
The very quick speak that I can give you on that is, you know, when you put a lot of time and effort into something and it doesn't quite materialize the way you think it was going to happen, we got outflanked by really bad politics in that community. The community deserves better. They deserve better leadership, and we very much struggled to overcome what I would call a very unique political atmosphere there. We had raised $10 million to put that park back together, and basically were accused of a whole bunch of different things. And at some point in time, your own internal ethics, and we walked away. The community didn't deserve that, but the politics dictated that. And when people say what you do turns to, it's because we worked gosh damn hard at it, and that was something that we were going to struggle to wickedly overcome. Now, I will tell you there's a new mayor there. Anybody knows Garrett Morgan, the modern day inventor of the gas mask and the stop signs? Well, his granddaughter is now the mayor. I have met with her, and I said, you get one term to get your city back going in the right direction, and then the ecosystem around the park will start to change. We couldn't be the only reason change was happening in that community, or we would have failed. That's the best answer I can give you.
Thank you. One last question. We're here that already.
Oh, okay.
Trevor Jones, thank you for an outstanding presentation. But I'm impressed with the amount of ground you have. And my question is, do you have a philosophy for the preservation of wildlife?
Meaning animals, I think you're talking about. I just like to clarify the question.
No. Fish, animals, birds.
I love them all. There's your answer. Thank you.
Okay,
There's one more.
The answer is I love all wildlife because that was your question.
have
Do
one
I
more?
like that?
one last question.
A philosophy? Yes, be kind to all animals.
Final
one more.
question.
Hi, this is Mary O'Neill. And, you know, we all love the Metro Parks. Everybody does. And we're only 5 minutes from our South Chagrin reservation. And we've had wonderful naturalists here, resident naturalists. But they are not there anymore. I think Wendy was promoted and no one took her place. And you also cut out the Sunday morning bird walks. Now, North Chagrin has everything going on. Bird walks, naturalist programs. I think we've been forgotten. And I just wanted you to know that.
So she
Maybe-
didn't actually ask a question,
We
so I don't
need a-
actually have to answer anything.
No. My question is, what happened? Why did that happen?
I don't think I can answer it now.
Okay. But we do need a few more things going on.
I'm
out
just
here.
giving you a hard time. I will answer the question.
Okay.
The best thing I can tell you is Wendy moved to Minnesota, and Mary Rouse is here. I will tell you that COVID was extremely hard on our staff. We lost a tremendous amount of people. A lot of our part-time naturalists that would be doing those activities were later in their careers, second careers. A lot of them that had means and methods, to be very frank, chose not to come back into the workforce, and so we had to kind of retool a lot of the things we do. I can tell you we don't forget one area of the entire park area, but we have to reevaluate the pressures and what we can provide to the community. And if it's something that the residents continue to want back through Lookabout Lodge or some of the other things, we will try to bring those back online as they're available. We just did a huge birding event at the lakefront. So you kind of have to move around because we don't just do reservation specific anymore. You do more of the system specific is where we had to go. So thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you. Well, as Brian shared with you, he will be available at the reception where we're all headed now, I think. Thank you so much for coming this evening.